John Clayton, the Saints, the NFL, takeaways, and much more right now on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. He's back with us here on the Sports Bash. John, welcome back, pal. How are you?
Good to be back.
Yes, and I know here in NFC East country, it has been a bleak season so far, but, man, it seems like this NFC and the AFC, I mean, you got the Chiefs over there, but it seems like this NFC is wide open. When I sat down and saw that the Saints are at the top of the list, I was kind of like, this thing seems to be wide open in the NFC.
Yeah, really it is, and I guess that's because some of the NFC teams have already had so many blunders. I mean, Green Bay losing big to Tampa Bay, then you had New Orleans losing to the Raiders, and if Seattle losing to Buffalo by giving up 44 points. There's more of a level balance, and of course, I mean, this was going to be the conference that had 12 quarterbacks that have either been to the Pro Bowl or making $21 million a year or more. But you can see that it's going. Think about a week ago. If you ask me, in fact, if you could ask me, I had the Saints as like the number 5 seed in the NFC. They go from number 5 to number 1 because they leapfrog Tampa Bay after Tampa Bay loses 2 games to them this year and then being absolutely blown out Sunday night. Seattle, with the defense giving up 362 yards a game, they drop down. I mean, Green Bay's probably number 2, but Saints go from all of a sudden, you can argue it's like Green Bay or New Orleans, and right now you might go with New Orleans. That was the number 1 seed that I thought talent-wise was going to be coming into the season, and right now, with the wins over Tampa Bay, they're back to proving it.
I want to get your take, John. I mean, obviously you're out in Seattle, 710 ESPN. You're up close and personal with them, but we saw them lose this week, and we saw Tampa Bay lose this week. I think when we had the conversation a week ago, we felt a lot differently about those two teams than maybe we do today.
Yeah, no doubt, because, I mean, it was Seattle and Tampa Bay 1-2 in the NFC, and here's the Seahawks. I mean, their defense is now historically one of the worst as far as stopping the pass. And what's amazing is that what's flipped is, they've now had 10 sacks defensively in the last 2 weeks, and now they're giving up 415 yards passing to Josh Allen in the secondary. And the secondary is supposed to be one of their strengths because they had the equivalent of 4 Pro Bowl starters out there at safety and cornerback. And now injuries have affected them, bad plays affected them, play calling's affected them. And, now they're getting rightfully criticized. And so that's now become a mess. But overall, I think that, you can see that Seattle's defense right now is the thing that can prevent them from going to the Super Bowl. Kind of reminds you of Kansas City 2 years ago when Patrick Mahomes threw 50 touchdown passes and the defense wasn't that good. They made it to the championship game at home and then lost to the Patriots.
Is this the same Josh Allen that you saw in September?
Yes. This was the same, if not better. I mean, the difference was they went into the game with no plans to run the football. They said, okay, we see that Seattle has some issues right now with their pass defense. We're going to try to exploit that. And so they came out smoking. And in 11 of the first 12 plays where they had 2 touchdown drives, 75 and 42 yards or so, they called 11 out of 12 pass plays. I mean, there was one play where, Josh Allen had to run around and scramble, but overall they only called 1 pass play, and they really only called about 19 the entire game. Everything was going to be for the pass, and of course he was up for it. I mean, and he had 28 targets to his top 3 receivers, which is clearly one of the top 3 wide receiver trios in football. And so, Stephon Diggs was going deep and getting balls. They had great play coming from Cole Beasley, at least in the short area, kind of that Julian Edelman type of slot receiver. And then, of course, John Brown has that great speed downfield, that 28 targets, and they really, I think, had 17 or 18 completions.
John Clayton, Washington Post, Week 9 in the books. He has a bunch of takeaways. It's always a great read over at thewashingtonpost.com as you got 16 quarterbacks on pace to throw for over 4,000 yards. And, of course, in the NFC East, it's painful to watch some of these offenses who are nowhere near that pace. But why is quarterback play, I guess, up in the NFL?
Oh, each week we keep on adding to the reasons. I mean, it started out first that they weren't calling the holding penalties. And again, I've been consistently watching this the last couple of weeks. They only marched off in the 14 games, 17 holding penalties. And, when you think about that, that's basically almost a little over 1 per game. So you don't have that type of a drive killer. Sacks are down this year, and that's a drive killer when you give it a sack. And then, now you start to add in, this is now the most number of pass interference, defensive pass interference we've seen in 20 years. And so you throw all that together. I mean, you get the big play downfield with the pass interference. You get more yards. You get more points. And now you got more longer drives. And, of course, what that does, it gives the quarterback the full ability to take advantage of the defense and beat the defense. But, again, it's like a week in and week out, it even gets more bold because the scoring keeps going up. I mean, there's the average scores now over 25 points a game per team. When you figure 24 is championship, but 25 per game. But so much of it now is just the way the game is being managed and how quarterbacks, particularly the mobile ones, can take advantage of it.
Well, speaking of mobile quarterbacks, Tua. Can Tua and the Dolphins actually make a playoff run?
They can, yeah, because right now they put themselves in the mix with Tua. Of course, you didn't think he was going to be able to win a scoring match and a shootout against Kyler Murray, but he did. And the most impressive thing is he was down 31-24, and he mounts a great fourth quarter comeback. He gets a 93-yard touchdown drive to tie it, and then gets a short field goal drive to be able to win it. And so now they're sitting at 5-3. They're right in the mix with Indianapolis and Cleveland, Las Vegas Raiders, and we'll see where Tennessee's going to be. But they're right in the mix now for one of the three wild cards.
John, I think, you look at, you mentioned Tua, and here and again, we'll go back to this NFC East where Carson Wentz has kind of struggled. And we talked about this yesterday, that I feel like the Eagle fans are looking around and saying, we had the new toy, but the toy is kind of getting boring and old because all these other new toys are so different looking. Kyler Murray and Tua and even like a Joe Burrow. Like, is there a sense that like there's a new style of quarterback, or is there a blend that we're just not seeing because we're kind of in this vacuum here?
Well, I mean, the trend obviously is you need mobility at the quarterback position, to either avoid sacks, get to the outside, do the RPOs. And, even though Carson Wentz isn't Lamar Jackson and isn't, certainly the runner that Kyler Murray is, he still has the mobility. And he still has to do it. I still think this is still a talent issue because you look at the fact that what is he really going with? I mean, again, it's Greg Ward. It's young receivers that you've never heard before. Travis Fulgham. Now they're starting to get the tight ends a little more healthy. That can be encouraging. And then when you're down 3 offensive linemen and sometimes as many as 4, then you're really in trouble. And you saw that from the opener when they lost to the Washington football team. So in the end, I think Carson's probably getting criticized more than he should, but he's also getting hit a lot more than he should.
I want to get your thoughts on our poll question that we have today. When you look at the NFC East and the 4 head coaches, Doug Pederson won a Super Bowl, Mike McCarthy won a Super Bowl, Ron Rivera has been to a Super Bowl, and Joe Judge has this team headed in the right direction. When you look at those 4, who do you think the best head coach is?
I'd say I'm still a big believer, and maybe it's because I'm from Pittsburgh and I know him so well, is Mike McCarthy, because, look at the long success he had in Green Bay, and now it's a matter of, but I guess if you're talking coaching this year, I think you'd lean toward Doug Pederson. And again, I know the record isn't good, but again, he was able to get the victory over Dallas. Now they're on pace, the Eagles, to, even if it's going to be a 5-6 win season, to win the division, because all it comes down to is winning division games. Because the one thing in the NFC East, nobody wins the out of division games. It's 2-17-1 right now, and so it's like whoever can win the division games win the division. And right now, it's set up for Philadelphia to win the division.
Sadly, it is. They'll play the Giants this week. And I feel like, John, that the Giants actually have some momentum. They've played tough. They had that game against Tampa. They finally got through on one of these close games, and it feels like maybe they're the one team that everyone's overlooking.
Yeah, but it's still a matter that here's where the streak ends, or at least the improvement ends. They don't get to play the Washington football team again. I mean, remember, you've got Daniel Jones, the turnover machine, has as many turnovers in his early career as Ryan Leaf did. And here he is. He's had 5 career wins as a starter, 4 of them against Washington. What does that say?
Yeah, I guess Washington is fun to play every once in a while when you're struggling, although the Eagles couldn't figure out a way to beat them either. John Clayton, Washington Post, will get one last takeaway. As you said, Drew Brees still rules the NFC South, which puts them ahead of the NFC. You got Pittsburgh, Kansas City, just past the halfway point. Is that a 2-team conference race, or is that as wide open as the NFC is?
No, it's a 3-team because you have to still include Baltimore. Baltimore lost a little bit of the edge when they lost to Kansas City and lost to Pittsburgh, particularly losing a home game. But of course, home games don't mean anything anymore because based after the first 9 weeks, home teams are 65 and 67 and 1. So it's like now you have more chances to lose a home game than anything else. But overall, I think it's a 3-way race right now.
All right, week 10. Can you believe we're in double digits of football weeks already?
And no games canceled. And by the way, again, just as a reminder, because I know last week it seemed incredible because, again, I chart all these different goofy things that I follow. There was 44 players that went on the COVID-19 list. There's 15 players, the most this season, that, this is from last week, 15 players that tested positive. But when you think about it, for a 1-month period, it was only 8. And that's one of the reasons why they don't have to cancel these games, because you do what happened in Pittsburgh. Okay, here Vance McDonald, the tight end, he's sitting on the plane next to Ben Roethlisberger, and now all of a sudden Vance tests positive, and so anybody that was around him, including Ben, 4 other players, they go on the 5-day list starting yesterday, but they are available to play as long as they have a negative test by the end of the week, and so both can come back onto the facility on Saturday and be able to play.
John Clayton, follow him at John Clayton NFL. Great piece today as we are past week 9 into week 10 of the NFL season. Drew Brees still at the top of the NFC South. Should be a fun finish down the stretch they come. John, we'll catch up soon. Thanks so much, pal.
Okay, thanks.
All right, John Clayton, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline.